to change the world. What is education for sustainable development? How do we want to live in the future? What and how do we need to learn to make that future possible? Education for Sustainable Development, or ESD, provides answers to these questions. Poverty, pandemics, the loss of biodiversity, and rising sea levels. These interconnected global challenges affect us all and can only be solved if we work together.
With increasing demands placed on the planet by a growing population, sustainable development is one of the biggest challenges we are facing today. The United Nations 2030 Agenda represents a global consensus to achieve sustainable development worldwide in just over a decade, ensuring that no one is left behind. The 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, also known as the SDGs, adopted in the framework of the 2030 Agenda, are a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity. International standards tackle a host of global issues. As a catalyst for innovation and best practice, they are solutions for industries, businesses, and communities. They also help protect consumers from unsafe and harmful products. As such, international standards are key to supporting the implementation of the SDGs and making them a reality. ISO works with leading experts and partners from around the globe to provide relevant tools that can be applied everywhere. From climate change to energy efficiency, our standards respond to global needs and help benchmark our progress against the SDGs.
Universal nature. Its 17 goals apply to all member states, not simply the poor countries and the populations of the South. Furthermore, each of these goals must be achieved in a way which respects the three dimensions of sustainable development: social, economic, and environmental. Among the 17 goals that have been identified are those relating to poverty, education, energy, gender equality, environmental conservation, responsible consumption and production, and the fight against climate change. The universal nature of the 2030 Agenda means that each of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals will be implemented differently in different countries. For example, while certain countries continue to struggle with hunger, others should be more concerned with promoting a healthy diet and combating obesity. While Switzerland throws away a third of its food, other countries lose a significant proportion of their harvests because of inadequate storage. And while certain populations are concerned about access to energy, many others consume enormous amounts and need to find a solution to reduce this consumption and its impact on the environment. Switzerland played and considered, such as means of sustainable consumption and production, or reducing disaster risk. The 2030 Agenda will therefore impact directly on how Switzerland's international cooperation develops, as it helps to implement the goals at the international level. Nationally, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals will be factored to a greater extent into domestic policy decisions and statements to the Swiss people. Everyone is responsible for putting the 2030 Agenda into practice. Its adoption also marks a shift in the way in which sustainable development is approached and implemented. Individual citizens, civil society, the private sector, the scientific community, the cantons and communes. There are many actors who can pool their skills and interests to make the 17 Sustainable Development Goals a reality. All sources of funding will be important in realizing sustainable development, be they public, private, national, or international. The systematic implementation of projects funded in public-private partnerships is one example of how synergies can be created and more money mobilized. By working together, we can enable everyone to live a life of dignity. But we must ensure that economic and social development is not achieved at the expense of the environment. It is an approach that is as ambitious as it is
This involves collecting waste items and transforming them into raw materials for new products. Materials that can generally be recycled in accommodation units include paper, cardboard, glass, plastics, metals and used cooking oil. The recyclables generated in accommodation units should ideally be separated at the source before they get mixed up with the rest of the garbage. This can be achieved by encouraging guests and employees to participate in the recycling program, placing recycling containers in areas such as guest room blocks where most guest-related recyclables are generated, training housekeepers to collect separately the recyclables from guest rooms, placing recycling containers in key back-of-house areas such as kitchens, bars, offices and storerooms, to collect the recyclables that are generated there.
ESD enables us to live what we learn and learn what we live. Let's shape the world with education for sustainable development.